Lightweight, step at a side when we come in. Feel it in your chest, the syllables get pumping. People on the street get panic and start running. Words on loose leaf sheet, complete coming. I jump on my mind, I summon the rhyme, I'm dumping. Healing the blind, I promise to let the sun in. Sick of the dark ways, we march to the drumming. Jump when they tell us if they want to see jumping. Dad, I want to see some fist pumping. Risk something, take back what's yours. Say something that you know they might attack you for. Cause I'm sick of being treated like I have before. Like a stupid standing for what I'm standing for. Like this war's really just a different brand of war. Like it doesn't cater to rich and a fan.
All right, guys, welcome to Wide Awake Radio. I am Charlie McGrath, your host. My website's wideawakenews.com. We have about 60 people in the chat room right now. If you want to join them, go to wideawakenews.com, click on Wide Awake Radio, and you can join in the chat. I have my headphones turned way up. It sounds like I'm mad at myself screaming, so let me turn this down. All right, here's the deal. It is Friday. It is open topic. This is all driven by the audience, so if you're in the chat room, start dumping topics into the chat. Or better yet, to be assured that your topic is talked about, call 877-342-6673, and you will be guaranteed to bring up the topic that you would like. Warren is going to be joining us in just a second because he called me about half hour ago with a story that I thought was very, very important, very, very timely, and goes right hand in hand with what we've been talking about all week. So let me get started with this. I'll bring Warren up in just a second. I want to talk about some of the big stories of the week that we could possibly talk about on the program tonight. Obviously, looking globally, we have Libya, 19 people dead today. That's a headline at Wide Awake News. You can go check that story out. So we're seeing the contagion, as it were, spread from Middle Eastern country to Middle Eastern country. But all you have to do is look internally here, and you're seeing the exact same thing happen here. The people aren't dying right now, but we're not at the same level of depravity quite yet as we see in some countries around the world. What I'm speaking to there is, of course, Wisconsin, and we're seeing 25,000 people rallying in Wisconsin because austerity's coming their way. Now, the pundits on mainstream media, I listened to them. I had to do about 4 hours worth of driving today and made it back just in time to get this radio show going. But the pundits today on the left and the right were both saying the exact same thing. Well, excuse me. They weren't saying the same. They were blaming each other. Let me put it that way. The Democrats want to blame these mean Republicans. The Republicans want to blame these greedy Democrats. The truth of the matter is that nothing is further from the truth. What you can blame it on is austerity. The criminals have been paid off. Now the too big to fail are going to bask in their glory, and we're going to see an absolute dismantling of society as we know it here in this country. Sorry if you guys hear my dog Trixie going ape in the side room, but she certainly is. Let's go ahead and bring Warren on. Warren, are you there?
Yeah, there, Charlie. How are you?
I'm doing very well, sir. Why don't you, I'm going to open it up to you. Tell us, and I know we have a couple callers on the line. So, Warren, tell us your story of what you were doing today.
Well, I live on the outskirts of New York City. It's in a county which is adjacent to New York City, and it's really a car-dominated place. And most of the people will, instead of walking, will drive a block. It's actually not that safe to walk because you sort of stand out. So most people drive a block to the driving convenience stores, which we have here, and they might drive 20 miles to work or 50 miles to work through traffic. They might drive into New York City. So I decided to see the other half, and I wanted to take actually public transportation. From my house, about 20 miles away, it took me 2 hours to do that today on public transportation. And to see what kind of people were taking the bus, and they were mostly minority people, probably working people, people that couldn't afford a car. So they're really the unpersons of this sort of car-dominated suburban hell. And the one good thing about hell is that it has a nice beach. I can tell you that for a fact, and that's why I'm here. But to make a long story short, I had to transfer buses in this place called Hempstead, New York, and it was in a place called the Rosa Park Transportation Hub, and it's run by the Metropolitan Transit Authority of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. So it's not even a New York State place. So I'm taking photographs there, and I don't have a tripod, which is illegal. And I have to taking photographs there using my handheld camera and a stabilization device. And a guy comes over to me, he says, there are no photographs here. You got to put your camera away. You can't take photographs here. So I'm like talking to him, and I said, look, I read the regulations from the MTA. You are absolutely entitled to go and to take photographs of this facility. You are absolutely entitled under the law to take photographs of this facility. ACLU had a showdown with the federal government. You can actually do this. And you can take photographs in front of federal buildings if you want. And the guy was adamant. He says, he's a security guard. He's not a law enforcement agency. He says, if you want to press this matter, we'll see you in jail faster than Jack Robinson can run the bases. So
unreal.
He that's it. So what are you going to do? So,
okay, so let me get this right, Warren. You're at Rosa Parks Terminal. That's
right. You know who Rosa Parks is, right?
Yeah, go ahead. Let it out. Let everybody know. If you don't know,
well, do you know who it is, Charlie, or should I? If you know who it is, go ahead.
No, yeah. Rosa Parks is a civil rights icon. Stood up for her right to ride on the bus. And here you're trying to take a picture at a terminal named after her, and you have a jackbooted police state thug, and he's not even a real one. He's a rent-a-cop. Sitting there telling you he's going to throw you in jail faster than Jack Robinson can run the bases if you don't put that camera away. So, in essence, even though you're 100% within your rights, you enter into a battle of, you were disturbing. Warren, there's enough laws on the books to put you in jail, regardless if you were right or wrong. Obviously, all this rent-a-cop has to say to a New York State trooper or a local police is, you were being uppity. And guess what? Warren goes to jail. You do a broadcast. You do the Monday show from, Rikers? Is that where it is out there?
It would be a place I wouldn't survive in. And it was pretty, I'm on the bus, and the person next to me says, oh, damn, I'm going to be late for my parole hearing. So that's the kind of place it is. And, it's pretty scary. I mean, there's honest people that have no choice but to take the bus. It really is. Everybody should be taking the bus. Nobody should be driving around. That's the way that it should be. And then it becomes a safe thing to take the bus. And I said to the guy, do you know what U.S. Title 42 U.S.C. 1983 is? He says, don't you go quoting the law to me. So I'm like, well, that's where you're responsible for violating my civil rights, and I could sue you under cover of law personally. For violating my civil rights.
Don't be confusing me with the facts,
The cops don't
Warren.
know what your civil rights are. They don't care about your civil rights.
No, they could care less. They could care less. They have authority and they have a badge. So they're going to tell you, don't confuse me with the truth. Don't confuse me with what the law says. I care about what I'm telling you. Do what I say, not what's legal. So a very interesting story. And Warren, this isn't the first time this has happened to you. I just want to remind everybody.
No, it had to be in front of the World Trade Center on a public street where this guy, Jack, 6'5", in plain clothes, came on over with his little sidekick, Hugo Stiglitz, a plainclothes policeman, and said, shouted from a block away, "What are you doing there?" And aggressively running up to me. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm taking photographs.
Everybody wants to be the next, age of the terror threat. Everybody wants to be the next homeland hero, I guess. At least that's that's the culture we live in, Warren. We have a propaganda machine.
I bought a ticket for the train. For the bus, a Metro card, which is good for $10. About 4 rides. Do you know what it says?
Well, let me guess. It's got Homeland Security, Department of Fatherland Security, Big Sis's "See Something, Say Something" slogan plastered all over it. It
has "Si ves algo di algo," which I think is if you see something, give something. I think.
Okay. All right. Well, it's multicultural now. We can have it in 400 language on that stub. Pretty soon.
So I called the Combat the Terrorismo Al hotline up 1-888 New York City Safe. I called him up.
Unreal.
And I told him that my civil rights were violated, and that was the terrorist event. And the guy says, "Well, what are you calling me for? I'm the terrorist hotline." He says, "Do you get any calls, or are you just busy violating people's civil rights?"
Well, we see this. We see this week.
I don't care. Go shove it. And I have a recording of this moron, which I'm going to put in a new video, which I'm going to post as soon as it's edited. And I'm carrying around this 24-hour recorder whenever I go photographing. because in New York State it is legal to record as long as one party consents. So just to defend myself, I'm going to have a record of any altercations.
I absolutely love it. I love it. Pete was on last night. He's doing citizen reporting. You've always done this. You and I talked before the show a little bit, and I think your plan of protecting yourself by recording it all audibly, or the audio of all your encounters, even if you shut your camera off so it looks like you're complying with somebody, so you don't get into a he said, she said, Warren said from Rikers Island type event, you can at least record audioly the encounter and then post it, because it's a one-person consent state. Warren, can you hang out? Do you want to hang out, or you got things to do? I'm glad you came on and shared that story with us. I have another one to share from a listener of the show, and we have a couple people on hold. So I'm inviting you to hang out if you would like to.
Well, I'll hang out with you. I'm not going to dominate the discussion. I think I'm just going to listen in, if that's okay.
All right. If I'll ask your opinion if I want it. I'll be just like the cop the rent-a-cop that was at the Rosa Parks terminal today. If I want you to say something, I'll tell you what to say. Okay, Warren?
Right. It was so funny that it was the Rosa Parks facility. So
it's unreal.
Have your civil rights violated in a landmark monument to a civil rights leader. So.
Or we're going to celebrate freedom at the Freedom Tower, whatever they're going to name this thing now in your fair city. We're going to celebrate freedom by coming and, having some 6'5" goon stand in front of you and asking you what the heck you're doing. Yeah, freedom is alive and well. It's just, it's a form of freedom that is a propaganda form. It isn't real freedom. It isn't real liberty. You can't go downtown New York where two planes flew into the side of buildings and we've spent a decade bankrupting a nation, killing millions of people around the world, and you don't have the freedom to go take a picture. You don't even have the freedom to ride on a bus and take a picture at the terminal where it ends. It's unbelievable. Warren, hang out. Al and Cookie, you're both on hold. Al was first, so Cookie, please hang on. Al, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, man. Thanks for the call. What are we talking about?
Well, my thing is I'm a prepper, and I know there's a lot of preppers that are here in the chat room, and I've visited. I know you're a prepper as well. I visited a lot of the YouTube pages and websites and whatnot. But I was wondering, do you guys actually have a contingency plan on where to go? I mean, this hasn't really been discussed. Like, if you have to leave your house, has anybody thought about where it is that you really, really want to go?
Actually,
state parks are probably a good place, but maybe if it's been on the air, I haven't heard it.
Okay, yeah, we've had C Gypsy on from the chat. She's a longtime prepper, and we've talked about if there's a crisis, man-made, natural, or otherwise, are you going to evacuate stay in, or if you're going to have a plan to go somewhere? We've never really, it's always been a personal decision. Like maybe I have relatives in Alabama, and if things go crazy up here in the Northwest, maybe I'm going there, or she's coming here. I guess we've never really broached into a certain area, like a place, a rendezvous area type of deal. But I mean, is that what you're talking about? Like certain areas where, I'm in Montana,
like
and we
have a survival colony maybe, or something like that. If anybody's had, I'm actually surprised that I haven't seen more of that, of people trying to say, like-minded folks, bring your stuff here if things go bad, and and we'll farm the land and live in as relative harmony as you can. Because there's more strength in numbers than there is a lone wolf. But that's kind of what
I agree. I agree that I agree on the premise. That there's more strength in numbers. Obviously, I haven't heard a lot of let's all rendezvous up in a certain location. I happen to personally think, and if anybody, if you disagree, Al, you can let me know. If it got to the point where I have to leave my home, or if I have to leave my family, my community, I'm probably, I'm probably looking for a place just to hold up, where I can take care of me and my own. But if I think gathering together isn't necessarily a bad idea. I should be honest, I haven't really thought it out. As you were saying this, national parks, that kind of thing, I'm thinking I live in Montana. We have some of the largest national forests in the country, And I know that there's laws. Like Warren can't take pictures at Rosa Park Terminal. The federal government even has their heavy hand in our national forest. You can't camp in a location longer than 7 days. Blah blah blah. So I don't know. I guess my thought on the matter is I'm staying put until I absolutely cannot stay put any longer. And then if I do have to leave, it's going to be to gather up, and it's going to be to rendezvous, but it's going to be with family. It's going to be with people I care about. Hopefully it's not a situation where, millions of people have to get together and figure out how to eat, because those are called FEMA camps, and I don't want to be involved with that.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
Do you have a specific idea you had in mind? I mean, were you trying to cultivate an idea?
Well, actually, I've had a idea that I've been cultivating for a few months now, and I put a video out on my YouTube page and everything else, because I'm on 14 acres and I'm a farmer this year.
Uh-huh. I remember that. I remember hearing that.
And everything else. And I would actually, because I'm out in the prairie, I'm pretty much by myself. My neighbors are half mile away at closest. But I would feel a lot more safer having more like-minded people that want to come out here and help with the chickens. And I don't have any cows or anything like that, but I am set up for a lot of things.
Right.
And I just think that there would be safetier numbers, and the more people that are here, the more food we could grow, and so on. So
yeah. Well, I think it's double-edged. I mean, people are going to call you nuts until they need you, and then you're going to have 500,000 people show up on your 14 acres. And
that's what I was scared of.
Then you're good. Well, I mean, Warren was on the show a while back, and Warren, you can jump in if you want. But Warren was on talking about northern or upstate New York, where you could go out and buy a property for taxes. You could buy it for $1. And we joked about we're going to see the new frontier as this urban frontier where people are going to be going back into places like Detroit. And you'll have groups, 500 Al from Wisconsin's going up to Detroit and just, moving into whole blocks at a time so they can provide security to each other and for each other and try to make a community to live in that you can afford to live in because you've been foreclosed on your house or you've lost your job or whatnot. And I see the potential for this urban frontier happening. I'd be terrified. People in the chat room joke all the time they're going to show up in my yard, and I'm kind of halfway afraid that if it all went south, I'd have 500 people out in front of my house. I wouldn't know what to do. It'd be a little intimidating.
Exactly. I know exactly what you mean. But yeah, that was kind of my thing. Is if people haven't had a plan, then maybe things are getting bad. They're saying that the government may shut down in 2 weeks, and if you don't have a plan, I think now is definitely the time to make a dry run. Yep. Get the plan, figure out what you're going to do, figure out what you're going to take, and do it.
Look, Al, this is the deal. Here's the deal, Al. You can look around. You're awake. You see what's going on in Tunisia and Egypt and Libya, what's happened in Europe with riots, and that's just because of loss of social programs. We're seeing the exact same thing here in your state, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, it's going on here now.
Yeah, and this is just because they have the potential of having to pay more into their benefits. Now, I'm actually, this might shock some people, I'm 100% on the side of the teachers on this. I'm 100% on the side of the employees of the government of Wisconsin. That might shock people, but, everything I hear, every time I hear a lefty or righty, this propaganda that they want to spout out on the right, it's, these people are overpaid, they don't pay anything for the benefits. In the private sector, people have to pay more. I'm over these arguments. I'm over them. I don't listen to them. They don't matter to me because here's the deal. I know that the $3.6 billion deficit that Wisconsin's facing right now is a mere drop in the bucket. It is 1/3 of what Goldman Sachs got through a backdoor bailout through AIG. So I'm done listening to these people are greedy, you should hate them, you should hate your neighbor because your home value went down. That argument does not work with me anymore. I think the people who had a contract in the state of Wisconsin for their health care, for whatever wages they had, whatever was in their contract, need to be upheld and obligated because we sure didn't have a problem raping this nation in order to pay off a few globalist banksters. So I don't know what your take is on that, but that was my little speech.
I totally agree with you. I think you're absolutely right on that. They got to stop sometime.
And they're going to.
It's overwhelming.
It is, and the people of Wisconsin are the teachers of Wisconsin. The people who are listening to me now that work for the government, and there's a good chance a lot of you are, because there's so many people that work for the government. You're going to be. This is your time for austerity. Guess what? It's coming. This has not been just announced by me, but a lot of other people. Austerity's on the way in the United States of America. 2011 is going to be the year of it. Tax revenues are down. Our federal government has to make some decisions on what to do about this lack of revenue. And states that can't print their own money, they don't have a Federal Reserve in each and every state to print money to pay their bills. These states are going to start to fall by the wayside, and we're going to see more and more people asked to suck it up and take one for the team. Well, guess what? The team it has taken one already. So the idea that we have to give more is absolutely ridiculous and insane. Al, we're gonna hit the break here. Did you have anything else you want to add?
I was just going to say, are they telling you guys outside the state that they're actually shutting the schools down in Wisconsin? I didn't.
No,
I didn't want to dominate the air or anything.
No, I did not hear that, Al, but it wouldn't surprise me if that would happen, a lockout. All right, we're going to take this one and only break, and Cookie is holding, so we're going to go to you right after our break, Cookie, so hang out, and we'll be right back with more Open Topic Friday on Wide Awake Radio. I'm Charlie McGrath. My website's wideawakenews.com. 72 people in the chat room. You can head over there, click on Wide Awake Radio, and join them. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Wide Awake Radio. I'm your host, Charlie McGrath. I'm sorry, I was reading a message coming in from Brett. I gotta remember, or from Warren. I gotta remember to keep talking, even though my instant messenger pops up a message, because it's kind of annoying just to hear dead air there. We've had Cookie holding for about 15 minutes now, and I know she wants to talk about what's going on in Wisconsin. So, Cookie, are you there?
I am here.
How are you? Thank you for calling.
I'm good. I just want to know, with Warren, he must look like some really scary dude with a camera if everybody wants to throw him in jail.
Warren's a teddy bear. I mean, Warren, I hope you're not offended by me saying that, but Warren is about as threatening as a koala bear in the zoo. He's
I
not
know.
intimidating.
What's that all about?
He's got the guts to go out.
I used to make grown men cry in Wall Street, so I have quite a temper, and I can be really evil, if I want to.
I think Rosa Parks is rolling in her grave.
She's just rolling in her grave.
I really think so. Hey, Charlie, I want you to know I was thinking of you today when I stocked my freezer full of chicken.
My favorite. I won't be coming to your house during the apocalypse.
You're just going to miss out on all that really yummy homemade chicken noodle soup.
I'd rather have cat soup.
Hey, the thing that amazes me about this whole Wisconsin thing is the Democrats hiding out in Illinois, of all places.
Right.
But just the fact that, they just ran, they just kind of ran and hid. I just don't get that at all.
Well,
they need one guy to do the vote, I think. That's
I understand that. I mean, but it's like, you people are elected. I mean, if that was my representative hiding, no matter what I felt about the issue, and I'm a union person. I understand, the whole thing. I'm in Michigan. I'm going to get my benefits cut, and I'm going to have to pay more, and the governor just announced all of the budget proposals for him, and that's going to hit me personally really hard. But if my representative was hiding, I think I'd start a recall.
Here's the deal. Obviously, on the heels of Arizona, there's these politicians are going to be ultra out of spotlight as this civil unrest, and that's what this is. If you have somebody saying, "Well, when we're going to see civil unrest in the country?" Look over at Wisconsin. There you have it. Right now, they're holding up signs and they're they're playing Black Eyed Peas at their rally, but it's going to change. I mean, this looks like Greece did a year and a half ago. When it's going to be bad is when it looks like Tunisia or Egypt does now. And these politicians they're fleeing the ship like rats fleeing the ship. We've seen Chris Dodd do it on the federal level, and many others, right, Warren?
Yeah, I mean they're leaving the ship, and the smart ones don't want anything to do with this collapse. They just want to distance themselves, and it's all these the petty criminals that are remaining.
Yeah, so Cookie, I think you're going to see as austerity is implemented, and again, I'm going back to austerity. As more and more austerity is implemented at the state level, you're going to see more and more security. The apparatus come out and protect the officials, the representatives who are just letting this happen to the people. And it's unfortunate. And you're a teacher. You were a teacher, right?
I'm a middle school counselor.
Okay, yeah, and it's unfortunate because you're going to be made, you and your union, and I'm not saying every union that is out there is, cares about the people that work for them, but the workers who sign up to be in a union, there's a trust there. They assume because they pay their dues and because they collect a bargain and because they make these deals with management, in this case management's government, that these contracts are going to be upheld. And, when the mainstream media works really hard in trying to convince you that we all have to jump in and roll up our sleeves and take a haircut, that's all fine. I'm for that if it were true, but it's not true. We see the rip-off of all time happen, and then here we are 2 years later, and you're being asked to take a haircut. And it's not fair, it's not right, and anybody who says it is living in an alter reality.
Right. Notice how Obama flips and tosses. Because now he's supporting the people who have their quote entitlements in the pension system and civil servants. And the problem is that there's just not enough money to pay for any of these things. That they were negotiated, without restraint. And unfortunately, the teachers are the most vulnerable. Police are most vulnerable. But we have police now earning $500,000 a year.
My pension's just going to get robbed completely.
Because
my husband is a retired teacher, and between he and when I retire, we'll both be on state pensions, and I just feel that those are going to just evaporate.
I do too. I hope they don't. I mean, and maybe they won't. Maybe nominally, the Fed will step in, and I personally think this is handwriting on the wall that they're going to step in and try to rescue some of these states. But they'll be with watered down dollars. For those of you listening who are just joining us and you hear a third person talking, Warren was on at the top of the show, bringing us his story that happened to him today in New York, trying to film at a bus stop, Rosa Parks terminal, and he was slapped down verbally, even though he's well within his rights and well within the law to do exactly what he was doing. So he's hanging out, and he's a silent co-host tonight. So if you hear somebody else talking, that's Warren. I saw that question come up in the chat, so I wanted to address that. Cookie, I think your head's in reality when you're thinking about your pension eventually being affected. How could it not? What is the fiscal shape of Michigan right now?
Well, Michigan's, in the toilet. I think the new governor is trying, but his cuts. I mean, you're gonna see the same thing that's going on in Wisconsin happen in Michigan, because just yesterday he announced what his budget proposal is, and it's the same thing. He's got the House and the Senate. He's a Republican, and he's got a Republican House and Senate, and he's increased several, he's, in his budget proposed several tax increases, like pensions are not taxed in Michigan, and they're going to be soon. They're dropping the homestead property thing, and they're going to start taxing that. They're going to drop the earned income tax credit, but they're changing the small business tax so that that'll benefit, small businesses.
Right.
Well, I agree with helping the small businesses because the taxes on them have been oppressive. But it's interesting that they're doing it right now when they're taxing the retired people and the dropping the earned income tax credit and all that sort of thing. It just seems.
Well, let me give you my opinion on what we're going to see shortly. Governor Christie in New Jersey is being heralded by the right as a no-nonsense, going after fiscal discipline type guy, and maybe he is. That's great. However, you're going to see more and more states have governors, have politicians like Christie who are going to be called heroes, but in reality, all they're doing is they're stating the state of affairs. And the state of affairs was known in New Jersey long before Chris Christie got there. The state of affairs in Michigan have been known for a long time, and the state of the country, the union in general, this is no secret that we were going to have these massive shortfalls. So even though we've been fed things are getting better and we're in the midst of recovery and we're going to have increased tax revenue and we'll be able to honor these obligations, the fact of the matter is, I don't care at what level of government, all these politicians, all these deal makers knew the condition of this country when they did the bailouts. They knew the condition. The Federal Reserve knew the condition of this country and the employment situation, what it looked like, which is their mandate to maintain. Before they lent out 19,000 transactions to firms around the world, they knew eventually it was going to end up in a tightening of the belt for the people of this nation. And now it's here. So these politicians that come out and say we have to do this, they're going to be heralded as heroes, but really all they are is the messenger. They're the news that eventually had to come down the pipe, and guess what? It's here. And so they're going to be said. People like Christie are going to say, well, isn't he courageous for coming out and telling the truth? Because this is a foregone conclusion that all these pensions, all these obligations cannot be met. The money isn't there, but it was a foregone conclusion when we spent upwards, by some estimates, $30 trillion saving the too big to fail.
Well, that's true. The difference between the states, though, and the federal government is that as you know, the feds can, print money, which the states can't do. But what's going to happen when the dollar is no longer the reserve currency and the state and the government can't print money anymore? Because as I understand it, the U.S. government can only continue printing money because it's the reserve currency, or is that wrong?
No, it's the world reserve currency. The petrodollar is what keeps it people saluting at our dollar bill. The second that's gone, it's over. I mean, it's over. And countries around the world are already making contingency plans to evacuate the dollar, to not do their transactions in dollars. China and Russia. China is now purchasing all their energy needs from Russia, the largest producer of natural gas on the planet, in their own currency. They're not going to deal in the U.S. dollar anymore. The U.S. has tried to keep this supply chain of dollars open for years. In fact, some would argue that the reason Saddam Hussein is dead right now is not because he invaded Kuwait, it's because he decided he was no longer going to transact in dollars. So, the second that is done, then you know what, you're going to see austerity here overnight. You're going to see, once the dollar is gone, Warren, I want to get your take on this. You're many years on Wall Street. You've never lived in a society that, neither have I, that didn't have the world reserve currency. But I'm sure you pontificated on what the world would look like, what the United States would look like, if we no longer had the ability to have the world reserve currency and have the energy needs of the world's transactions be done in that dollar. What are your thoughts?
We'll look like Rosa Parks bus station, the whole country. We'll look like Rosa Parks bus station, which is pretty scary. But, if you think about it, empire, military projection, reserve currency, and access to oil and imported food and imported labor and goods from China are all the same thing. So if you lose, you have the reserve currency because you have military projection. You have oil, 20 million barrels a day being used for transportation, more than any other country on a per capita basis. I mean, the only other country that uses more energy per capita is probably Canada, and they have a highly urban society, but they're also, very in a very cold clime. Here it's squandered away on transportation requirements, and it's all based on this military-industrial complex, financial and law-based capitalism. It's all one and the same. And this police state that we're seeing at Rosa Parks, bus station is an expression of failure. The Patriot Act is an expression of failure. And rather than start to reform and start to correct the conditions of life, we're going to wind up having these catastrophic breakdowns from time to time. I mean, right now we're in a hyperinflationary wave. I saw an MIT statistic that inflation may be annualizing to 10% according to their metrics of actually surveying goods, a basket of goods, which are the people actually use, including non-core items such as food and energy. So if we're having a 10% inflation, the wages are going down, taxes are going up, the Republicans don't have any solutions, the Democrats don't have any solutions. I mean, the only place that seems to make sense is, I was reading on Zero Hedge, in Singapore, they super tax people that want to have cars and automobiles. So they're reflecting the social cost of having this kind of fuel consumption, of putting the roads together, and it might cost you, $100,000 in taxes to go and purchase a car. Here, people would sooner be homeless than lose their cars, and that's why I was driving around on a bus today to see what it was like for the other half to live. But we're going to experience that sooner than later. The infrastructure just isn't here.
I know, but I agree, Warren, 100%. And it's going to be an absolute shock. I mean, there's people who are shocked right now what's going on in Wisconsin. We're going to keep playing the left-right game. We're going to have half the country pundits blaming the liberals, half the country's pundits blaming the conservatives, and in the end, we're all going to end up losing. Cookie, did you have anything else you wanted to share with us?
No, I think that about covers all my topics tonight.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your support of the program. I appreciate your monitoring of the room, along with C. Gypsy and Bonnie. And thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. I'm going to go to Eric. All right. Thanks, Cookie. I'm going to go to Eric in Maryland. Are you there?
Yeah.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for calling.
I'm well, thank you. Interesting conversation. I've been enjoying it. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Well, thanks for calling. I appreciate it.
I have a slight bone to pick, maybe, in that yes, the public employees certainly did enter into a contract with the state, whether it's Wisconsin, New Jersey, New York, Illinois, California, Texas, Florida. But all these contracts are, as any contract, is subject to renegotiation. And AIG, Goldman Sachs notwithstanding, I come back to the prospect that if the people lead, the leaders will follow. And while it may be a bitter pill for these folks to swallow, the rest of the country does not have the luxury of paying a bare minimum for their pension or for their health care, in that the folks that are really working, such as myself, that either are paying entirely for their pension or entirely for their health care, in addition to living on a working wage, I don't have the luxury of being able to strike. So the first thing that comes to mind is that maybe for the benefit of the sovereignty of the state of Wisconsin and the sovereignty of the state of Maryland and the country, that we all have to maybe swallow a little bit. And while we did not have the luxury of voting on whether AIG or Goldman Sachs was going to get their benefits and their multi-billion-dollar bonuses, that the state as it is cannot continue to go forward. it amazes me that if the public work option, whether it's teachers, state highway workers, federal workers, state workers, if that was such a great and noble cause, and if 50% of the people were going to be doing this, maybe 75%, maybe 85% of the country should go into working for the state. And at some point, it has to come back to who's going to pay for all this. And as a private business person, I'm left with the idea that it's going to be the private business person who's actually generating a product, generating a service that's not relying on tax revenue that's going to be paying for it. And
I understand.
We're fighting amongst ourselves, but state, public, social work cannot continue to go on where 100% of the country is being paid by federal or state tax dollars.
Your argument is very well executed, and I understand your point of view. I've been in private business for 20 years. I see the effect of extended unemployment benefits in our state. I see we have employees that live in surrounding states, and how some legislation in Idaho might be different than Montana, and we end up paying quite a bit more because of state legislation in Idaho, especially when it comes to unemployment. But this is the point I want to make, Eric. This is what I'm trying to get across. I'm not saying that we need to have more government workers. I'm not saying that the system is equitable. But then again, I'm not arguing that we don't have an apparatus of a voting block of government workers. I'm arguing the fact that the teachers of Wisconsin, the teachers of Wisconsin have a contract. And for anger to be generated for the populace to stand up and say, well, you know what, I work in the private sector, I produce a widget and I sell the widget and I have value and I'm the one who's paying their wages, they have to take a haircut. Why? I mean, why did they have to take haircut? Why weren't you for that when times were good, when tax revenue was up and these teachers made the contract? I mean, these teachers are the ones who are going to be, they're the first in line for austerity. And I don't think that it's right. I don't think that it's right that they want to renegotiate any working class person's contract in order to pay for shortfalls in the budget. You know, there's not a state in this union that isn't thick with pork and fat. I'm not arguing that at all. What I'm saying is we have given up the wealth of this nation to save the people who brought us down in the first place, and now the fight is going to start. And unfortunately, Eric, you are going to be affected. Private business for 20 years. I'm affected. I've been in private business for 20 years. None of that's the argument. The argument is austerity is being the people who are the least responsible for the situation, the economic situation of this country, are going to be asked to pay for it. And this was written, this was baked into the pie when Hank Paulson held the gun to America's head. So, your argument makes sense to me. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's two separate points. I mean, one is the raping and looting of America by a few elite people who are in this revolving door between Washington lobby groups and finance and what used to be called industry. And we have now all of these people sort of charging usury for insurance and all these bank fees and bank fines and mortgages and corruption and derivatives and all this other stuff. These people are generating a lot of wealth for themselves as they rob us blind. That's one thing. The second thing is that there isn't enough money to go around to satisfy all or any of the obligations of 75,000 governments in the United States. There just isn't enough. There's not enough money to pay the federal debt, the state debt, the local debt. And what all these municipalities have done is they've taken their tax revenues and they've passed tax anticipation bonds. They've gone to their broker and say, 30 years worth of sales tax, and we can float a bond that's guaranteed by our sales tax. Guess what? These taxes are not going to come in, and these pension plans for these civil servants are all guaranteed by state taxation revenue, and that revenue, frankly, isn't there unless the currency hyperinflates. And then we'll just watch these municipalities become even more broke. So we're in the point of a breakdown crisis. And you can't divide and conquer and say, we'll take money from the teachers and we'll cut back our spending. I mean, the Republican argument for resolving this condition is as ludicrous or more ludicrous than the Democratic argument. Both of them are totally ludicrous. You cannot have a functioning economy with empire delaminating or defenestrating in front of your face. I mean, it's falling apart. Empire is falling apart. We've all been living the life of entitlement, and now we've outsourced our industry, and guess what? We're in a very vulnerable situation, and our government is in denial, and they're sitting there with these fantastic plans and fantastic perceptions, and we're going to be, in a breakdown crisis sooner than later. And that's the bottom line.
I couldn't agree with you more, and that was very eloquently stated. I do not disagree with the word that was stated. The point that I think continues to need to be made is that if the people lead, the leaders will follow. And you can say that's a socialist statement. I'm far.
Isn't that what's going on in Wisconsin?
I'm a private business person.
Eric, I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
Eric, I don't mean to cut you off, but we got about a minute left. I'm going to ask you real quick. And isn't that what's happening in Wisconsin right now? I mean, the people are leading. They're going and they're showing up at their capital and they're saying, enough. We're not going to, you're not going to take from us so you can pay for the crimes of others. And the fact is, $3.6 billion is what the deficit is in Wisconsin. Okay, and that is a pittance compared to what was handed out in honoring contracts from companies like AIG in the midst of bailouts in 2008. Billions of dollars were paid in 2008 alone in contracts, and we were told that we had to obligate these contracts. If you remember, dang it, Eric, I really want you to call back in. Maybe call back in Monday. I'd love to have this conversation with you. I like the way you present your argument, and you don't fly off the handle, so please call back in. Warren Pollock, thank you very much for joining me and hanging out with us tonight. Thanks to all the callers. Thanks to everybody in the chat room having fun tonight. We'll be back Monday with our Friday secret co-host, Warren. He'll be a real co-host on Monday, so everybody have a great weekend. Stay tuned because Jeff Rentz is coming up next.
Bikes, roads, inside your market, your shops, your clothes. My dad, he's got a lot of fear, I know, but enough pride inside not to let that show. My brother had a book he would hold with pride, a little red cover with a broken spine on the back. He hand-wrote a quote inside: when the rich wage war, it's the poor who die. Meanwhile, the leader just talks away, stuttering and mumbling for nightly news to be played. The rest of the world watching at the end of the day, both scared and angry, like, what did he say?